Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ellen. So today we're going to have lots of fun. We're going to be doing some drawing with charcoal pencil, painting with some watercolor, washing in some gouache, and creating this kind of fun, loose base kind of Tuscan landscape. It's so much fun to do this. Oh, and also using a credit card, scraping in color, spraying on color, splattering color. This is what it's all about. Having fun, creating joy with your paints and whatever tools you have. If you have any questions, please leave in the comment section. Let me know if you love playing with all these things. This is kind of like I wouldn't say multimedia because it's just one multimedia. It's just it's the charcoal pencil with some gouache, but we use gouache in a lot of watercolor anyway. So leave a comment below if this is something you're interested in. Also check out my Patreon. I have ad-free videos, exclusive tutorials on Thursdays, a live stream on Top Tier and once a month. It's just a place people go and support my channel. I also give you first dibs on workshops and watercolor retreats. I actually launched a new one today in Italy. So Patreons get first dibs, and then after that it goes to the public, whatever's left over. Like again, it's a place people support my channel, which I appreciate so much. I'll be adding in a Facebook group this week and start to do some giveaways next month. So we're gonna have a lot of fun over on Patreon. So check it out right up here. Boop. So without further ado, let's get painting this fun, loose landscape. All right, so for this exercise, let's go over supplies. I have Fabriano Artistico 100% cotton cold press block. This is the bright white vegan one. I'll be using some old credit cards. Credit cards are better than torn paper because the paper will get wet and then will kind of bend and be kind of malleable and will be great. A 1-inch flat wash brush, which I'll be playing around with, or any kind of cheap brush. And of course the tube paints, right? Now you can use any colors you want. This is just a fun exercise and just playing with watercolor out of the tube and wet on wet and all that good stuff. Now we can think about a horizon line or not horizon line. We can just do shapes. Maybe I might play around with the let's play with the charcoal pencil and think about, I don't know, some kind of cool line going here, right? It could be like a landscape or not. You could put a house in here and a little road or something. Draw like a little road, something like that, right? And then I'll just draw a simple house with this. There's a rectangle, roof, roads going into the house. I don't know, we'll play around with that. So that's just simple, kind of goofy. Maybe we put some little funky trees. See? Almost like little cypress trees. Little points. Maybe a tall one here. Simple drawing. Right? You can put little windows here. It doesn't really matter because it might just get all mushed up. And we're just sketching with this charcoal pencil. Now I have a link to the pencil finally on my Amazon shop. But remember we did this in one of the abstracts. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to use that pencil. We're going to play around with the credit card and all that good stuff. So with the credit card, I'm going to take it, I'm going to dip it in some water. I'm going to grab the yellow and some peacock. And we've got our green, bright green. I'm dipping the credit card in water actually. We can start to play around with scraping down some shapes or just little scrape marks. Can add a little brown to that. Isn't that fun? And you can just mix blues in there. I have a peacock blue over here. I even have indigo. Just do some scrapes. A little brown up in here. This is umber. Just little scrapey scrapes. Doesn't have to be everywhere. I'm going to clean up my card. Now I'm going to take some bright colors like this cadmium red light. I really wanted to water it down. Let me see. Grab this. So I'm getting abstract here. I'm just throwing in that red. Got some bright rose. red. Playing around with that. Cleaning off my little thing again. Grabbing some yellow. Isn't this fun? This is like almost like you're a little back in like elementary school doing silly things with cards and pencils and pens. Now you can get a little more serious with your colors. Trying to get some, burnt umber in here and some Paynes gray. Maybe some red for the house. Maybe I didn't want it that dark. I'll just remove that color so much. And the roof should have been that dark. And I can make the house a different color, but I'm going to keep it more terracotta color. So I'm going to grab some more yellow, mix in with that red. Red. Or if you have like burnt sienna. Look at that. And going back to my green. Scraping the trees, and we're going to do some stuff with the brush, spray bottle, probably add some gouache. I'm really going to get this wet now. It's green. Try and scrape down a little more. All right, let's see where this takes us. I like to play around. Here we can start with the brush, just get it wet, and just loosen up that charcoal. Look at that. I'm really just kind of, see, I'm just taking the brush and just damping that charcoal. And then have it bleed into the colors. Just like that. Get it wetter. Lift it up this way. Now if it starts to bleed down, put like a towel down below here. Let's see, we're just kind of just tapping it, going downward. Let's see what happens. Kind of pushing those shapes. Kind of cool, right? This is what we're supposed to do when we paint. Have fun, experiment. Sometimes I never know what's going to happen. I have a vision. I play around with it. I'm keeping this road fairly white. I'm going to go in and add the color from the areas that we just painted and kind of mush it in. Crisscrossing this brush. Look at that. What is going to happen with this crazy colorways mixed in like that? Kind of different, right? Bright. Put a lot of water in here. And that's all red. Just being silly with paint and shape. Now I'm pushing down the house and the trees. Getting those wet. Holding this on the side. Just going like that. Really kind of simple and kind of goofy at the same time. And then this can all kind of bleed down. I can lift it up. Tippy tapping more color when I get rid of that dark tones of the brown. You can lose it this way, move it that way, hold it upside down. Right? Manipulate it a little more. It's just kind of silly. Now I'm going to push the paint with a little blue. I'm going to grab some indigo. Loosen that up. Let's put some out here. Just really going over those trees. Having fun. This is supposed to be kind of like an abstract. I mean, it's not abstract because you can actually see the house. But the way we're painting it. And so I'm not sure if I mentioned that we need to have white gouache because we're going to do something fun with that. So I'm just going over this with that blue. Loosely moving paint around here. Oh, that brown got on the sky. I don't want a brown sky. So my brush is a little muddy. Gonna grab that indigo. Put some out here. Okay. My trees got a little mush. Okay, for the road, I'm going to grab a little Paynes gray. Put some little marks in here going up. Then I'm going to clean off my brush. Kind of push them down a little bit more. Because I wanted the charcoal to have like a darker gray along the edges. It didn't, so I'm going to kind of mimic that by just tapping my brush on the side and just grabbing that Paynes gray, kind of moving it around like that. Like I said, it's semi-abstract. Now you can just kind of play around if you have some green. I have a mess over here with my colors. It's like a peacock, indigo. So just kind of tippy tap some green in here. Going down here. I really don't care if there's like pink in there. See how I'm just gonna like taking the brush and I'm just going really haphazardly, like really fast. Okay, all that fun stuff. And then if you want to make a darker green, I have like indigo with the yellow. Really kind of thick on my brush. I can add a little burnt umber to that. Actually, I have a bunch of different greens, but Prussian blues are really good too. If you don't have indigo. Those cypress trees, this paint is really kind of thick. It's almost like gouache or acrylic. I'm just holding this brush on its side and tapping that thick paint in where those trees are supposed to be. So this is going to be like an abstract kind of Italian landscape. Putting some greens and browns. Because, you know, Italy, they have greens, there's browns, there's rustic colors, all that good stuff. Some brown up here. You could throw in some bright green. Mixing up some bright green. Just tippy tapping. Look at that. So it has like this really loose, kind of semi-abstract. Even though we have this bright colors here, I don't mind them. I like kind of, you want to put some green around them, go ahead. You can indicate like it's a poppy field. I'm going to clean off my brush again. Just kind of move this paint around a little more. You can kind of lift it up a little bit or push it around. Be careful not to do too much because your paper will get all kind of pilly. So I'm just playing around with lifting up some of this color and moving it around just a little bit. See, grabbing that white. You see the white now of the paper. Okay, I'm going to clean up my stuff a little bit. So now that it's still damp, right, we have this like nice semi-abstract kind of thing going here. I'm going to take some white gouache. Kind of similar to that floral that I did recently, where you're mixing the gouache in with the watercolor and has a semi-translucent kind of feel. And the gouache, when you water it down, it's just like watercolor. You can mix it with watercolors too. But while it's wet, see, this is still damp. It has this really kind of cool, see, it's kind of bleeding. And I'm just going to grab some gouache. You can grab it a little thicker too if you want the road to be whiter. So you're getting this like real intensity of like this road. Thicker paint right out of the tube. It's not going to bleed as much. Out here it's kind of bleeding. Just going to have that road, like your energy is going to all go up that road. That white. It's kind of fun, right? Now I can make the house a little lighter by taking the gouache. Adding like the burnt umber, some yellow. So it's dark here. You can make it a little bit light here. You see, holding it inside. I got a little lighter. The side is too dark from the roof. We have to lighten it up a little bit. So I'm grabbing some more of that brown, going downward. The gouache. Just one tube of gouache with your watercolor. See, that changed everything. Grabbing a little more. So it's lighter than the front, but not excuse me, not as light. Right? Listen to my voice. This is still very damp over here. I'm going to grab some indigo, yellow, umber. I have gouache in my brush still. Playing around with adding darker color. There's the indigo. So you get the shadow kind of happening. Now, of course, we lost the windows. No big deal. And of course, now we're going to add some Paynes gray. So you get to that roof. Really just kind of simple. I love how they're just kind of all kind of blending now over here with this funky little cauliflower happening. By the way, we always talk about this. You can take whatever brush you have, cheapy old brush, whatever, any smaller brush. Can loosen up that watercolor. This is still pretty damp over here, and you know what I'm going to say. It does this really cool thing when it splatters into the. I don't want to get this part, so you might want to cover that part with like a paper towel or a piece of paper. So you want to get the damp areas. It could look like flowers if it's still wet. If it's not still wet, it'll have this like nice kind of blend to it. So it almost looks like when you put salt onto the paper. Instead, you're using gouache. See how it kind of disperses like that? I'm just going to keep the paper towel back over here. And when it dries, it will look like more like flowers, but so much fun. Now for that red, you can picture, like envision like some poppies down here. I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'm going to splatter. I'm going to take the paper towel. Going to splatter it there. A little bit down here. Right? Now, I don't want it to be just like this splatter. I might spray it a little bit. See, now it moves. Now it's going to move. Look at that. Cool, huh? How much time did that take us? Seriously. Super fast, kind of cool, funky painting. And that's going to do its movement. It's going to move around where it wants to go. Now that we splattered there, if you want to add a couple of other colors, I'm going to go in and grab some yellow and just tippy tap. Tippy tap. Ooh, that was a little too big of a tap. And not thick enough paint. But I can do some little ones around here and over here. Oh, that wasn't wet. If it's dry, we can do the same thing. We can just splatter it. Kind of fun, right? But I love adding the gouache just in the road. And then this can be really dry. And then you can go back in and add with your Paynes gray the windows, the dark windows. Simple, right? You can bunk up the trees a little more. You can add, I'm going to add some bright green. I don't want them to be perfect though. I'll add a little bright green. It's an interpretation. So that's my funky little interpretation. I might lighten up the gouache, the house even a little bit more. So that's pretty dry, and I'm just taking the gouache and going in there. And I might make it a little more rustic color, terracotta color. So it's lightened, like the sun's hitting it. But just look at, I just drew that simple road, simple little shaped house, funky little trees. This is that look, you know, if you want to go for that fun look. If you want the sky to have a little more color in it, play around with that. I'm loosening up some indigo over here. I know it's dry over here, but now we can play with it. See, I just kind of went like this. I'm going to clean off my brush, and I'll move it around again. I'll tap it back on the paper towel. I think it was a little too light. So I'm going to go in here and play around with moving the color around. You don't want to do this too much because you can overwork it. You can always try another pass if you're not happy. I wasn't happy. There wasn't blue enough for me. So I'm going to go for one pass. I wouldn't do it more than once. No, no, no. And it's too wet. And then it starts to pill your paper and it's no good. So once is good. Kind of blend it into this edge here. See, I just went like a nice swipe. Carefully blend it into your trees. And then blend it back over here. There. Now my sky looks a little more sense. I like it. Wasn't that fun? Splattering, moving, the charcoal pencil. You know, you're playing with different things here. I love the gouache. I wouldn't do too much more with that. You could play with a little more gouache, like loosening it up if you wanted to. Like over in here, adding some more white. It's all about play, guys. Play, splatter, do the dance. And look at that. It was a simple, like, little Tuscan landscape. All that good stuff. Yep. I just actually launched my last retreat of 2023 on Patreon today, and it's in outside Tuscany. It's in Tuscany, actually. Tuscany region, outside of Florence. If you're a Patreon member, go check that out, because Patreons get first dibs on all my retreats and workshops and certain things, and then if it doesn't sell, it goes to the public. So go check it out. So I hope this was fun. I hope you enjoyed it. Simple little shape, funky little trees, little funky road, splattering paint, moving paint. This is what it's about. I think this is fun, like semi-abstract. You can get a little more serious with the house if you wanted to. I was just trying to make it like really simple. And look, I know maybe necessarily don't need to scrape down with the credit card the colors, but it's something to try, something to play with. You can just scrape a house, do a bunch of little houses on a little hill and see what happens, and spray and all that fun stuff. So I hope this was fun for you. It was fun for me. I just like to experiment with all kinds of things. Credit card. I don't know if this is necessarily using a credit card, but it's fun to experiment to see what happens with it. I like to see what happens with it. Actually, if you had it really loose, or where you can make nice, simple, cool, fun squares or rectangles going in the ground. Spraying, charcoal pencil, you know, using some gouache, and you have this kind of cool, like semi-abstract kind of, well, it's not abstract, but it's really loose, you know, and it's an interpretation of like maybe like a Tuscan countryside villa house, all that good stuff. So thank you guys so much for stopping by. I hope you hit the bell notification button to know my tutorial's up, and I hope you subscribe. Take care, and I will speak to you soon.